All right. Welcome to IGNIS podcast. And today we have Josh Smith. And yeah, we met at Res Life Church at the Tuesday morning men's Bible study.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with that, we'll just get started. You're from,
Granville,
okay.
Michigan. Born and raised there. I have I have an ex-wife and two kids, and I started going to Res Life about Mother's Day this year.
Okay.
So and yeah, so my story begins with about when I was 17 years old. Well, I'll start off earlier. My parents were both in the church. My mom and dad were they were missionaries and evangelists,
Oh, okay.
and we went to church twice on Sunday, and we went on Wednesdays, and I went to cadets and did all
Oh,
that.
wow. Okay.
So we were all in the church in Zion Reformed Church in Granville, and as I got older, we moved to other churches, and we went to Res Life, and I just turned 17 and started falling away from the church, and I would I I was put on a prescription called Adderall, and the prescription was not I didn't know it at the time, but it was not what I needed. So it was one of those prescriptions that actually did the opposite. So I was getting sped up, instead of getting relaxed. So I used that, and I started mixing that with marijuana, and then my friends would come over, and then we'd smoke marijuana, and we'd take Adderall, and do all the bad stuff that kids do at that age,
Yeah.
start testing the waters, start having sex and all that kind of stuff. And I got into pornography when I was at that age, because the internet was coming up.
Yeah.
So we got into that. And then it just kept following me. Like I didn't go back to church. I just kept doing that. I kept doing drugs, and then it got worse. I got a little bit older, and I had a surgery, and the surgery was on my thumb, and I broke it during a fight because I was working at a bar. So I broke my thumb, and I had surgery, and they put me on Norco, and became heavily addicted to Norco, and started taking that. I think I was taking like I started off with like 4 or 5 a day, and then I drink on top of it. So I'd have a couple Budweisers, and that progressed to where it got worse and worse and worse, and I was eventually taking anywhere from 10 to 15 a day and drinking. And I wasn't working because my dad's a real good guy. He's a builder and everything. He's a great dad, good Christian man. And he knew I was struggling. He let me live in the basement of his apartment building. So I used that and was basically just doing drugs and working. My buddy and I, my buddy's dad owned a bar, and we had bedrooms upstairs, so we could go get drunk and then go upstairs and sleep if we wanted to. So we did that, and I we got into cocaine. I got a motorcycle, started riding my motorcycle, and
This is
then
this is in your early 20s?
this is in my late 20s.
Okay.
So this is in my late 20s.
Okay.
So then I fast forward a little bit. We did that for a while, and then I met my wife Brandy, and she didn't know the depths of what was going on. She didn't know that I was on drugs and doing all this stuff. She didn't know that, and she didn't know I was into pornography and all that. And she came in and stopped me from using. Got me on Suboxone. I don't know if you know what that is.
No.
So what it is it's a prescription that helps you get off Norco.
Okay.
So, and I was able to literally go right to Suboxone, get off the Norco, and I stopped. And I was doing really good. And she ended up, we ended up having a young girl together and got married. We had Vivian, and then she had Kason, who was 5, who I've been raising. And I so we moved into a place. I started working for a company called S&G Properties, and I was doing maintenance work, and it was awesome. I had a great job, everything going, had the kids, had a life, and for some reason I wasn't finding happiness because I didn't have the Lord yet. I didn't know what to do, and it's like this hole that you just you can't explain it. You know what I mean? Like a lot, I know a lot of people feel it, you know, and they know it unless they don't have the Lord, if they don't have, you know, love and all that. So I fell back into Adderall, and I'm talking fell back into Adderall bad. Um, I started doing it all the time, and she would catch me, and I would say, "Oh, I'm gonna quit," you know, and I would quit for about 3 months, and I would just stop, and then it'd come right back. And she got to the point to where it was a year ago. She called the police on me, and I got a domestic violence, and got kicked out of my house, and she didn't want me there, you know, so because of the kids and everything, she didn't want drugs around the kids, which I agreed 100%. And I lived in an apartment, and well, anyway, so I went to jail. I was telling you, I went to jail. I met a guy in jail, and this guy was hooked to I mean, he was hooked to drug dealers and all this stuff, and I could get whatever I wanted. I didn't know that at the time until he got out. I gave him my phone number. He gets out of jail, calls me, and he's like, "Hey, Josh, you know, you want to hang out?" And I'm like, "Sure, let's hang out," you know. So I hung out with him, and anyway, so for some reason I asked him, I said, "Can you get this drug?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "How much do you want?" And I said, "Well, it depends on how much they cost, you know." And he calls me back and he goes, "Well, they're $1 a piece." And I was like, I was paying $13 a piece. And I was like, no way, you know, there's no way. And anyway, so I told him I'll take $1,000 worth. So he goes, the guy meets us, and this guy shows up and he's got a bag full of drugs. I mean, just a bag. And I'm sitting there looking at that. I've never seen that much pills. You know, I'm just stunned. I'm sitting there thinking, the police show up right now, I'm going to prison. You know, I'm done. And so I bought them and I left and I started taking the pills, and I was staying up for 7 days. I'd stay up for literally 7 days until the walls would literally look like there were spider webs, and then I'd be like, okay, it's time to go to bed because it was so bad. And I was deep into pornography because my wife didn't want nothing to do with me. I was going through just, you know, I was going through she wanted a divorce, and I understood why, and I was just fighting it, and I got to a point where I was taking so much drugs that I didn't know what day Monday was. I didn't know what day Tuesday was. I would just, whatever day it was, I'd jump up and go to work, you know, if I could, and it was just ruining my life. I mean, it was so bad. I remember my boss came in and he had set a Bible next to, because I was living in his office. I was living in the back room, and he set a Bible right there, and I never read it. It sat there, and I didn't know it was his personal Bible. He had set that there for me, and that, you know, it almost makes me cry when I think about it because it was right there, you know. And I remember, I got mad at one of the jobs, and I told somebody off, and he goes, "Josh, you know, you're getting out of hand." And I had lost so much weight, and he knew I was losing. I mean, I was down to 160 pounds,
Wow.
and I'm 230.
Yeah, yeah.
You
And you're
know,
6'4".
6'4", yeah.
That's
So
not good
not
if you,
good. I was
yeah.
skin and bones, and he was worried. He was so worried, and he's like, you know, we'll send you to the hospital. And I was like, no, you know, you're not sending me to the hospital. And he goes, well, we can give you a different job. You can go do this other job. I said, no, I'm not doing that. I fought it, and I should have never fought it because he was just the greatest guy. I mean, he was there for me. You know, he loved me. You know, and I couldn't see it though. You know, I didn't see it. So I that day he said, you got to go, you know, and I was like, okay, you know, it's time to go. So I got in my truck. I went up to my camper. My camper was up in Lake County,
Okay.
up in Baldwin area, okay, at this campground. And I got there, and my parents met up with me because they were worried. They were so worried about what was going on, and I talked to them, and I told them, you know, I said, you know, I'm doing drugs and I'm not going to get off them. I said, so you guys can just pack up and leave, you know? So my dad, he's like, you know, I don't really want this for you, but you know, you got to do what you got to do. And for some reason, I started reading the Bible. I was reading the Bible, but I was reading the Bible on drugs. And the Bible told me to kill my father. It said, kill your dad. You need to kill your dad. He's in your spot. If you don't kill him, You're gonna, he's in your way. And I got him, I called him up and I said, if you don't get out of my way, I said, I'll kill you. I said, I'm going to kill you. And he was scared to death. I mean, and then I showed up there and I told him, I said, I don't know, it was so off the hinges
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
and I went after him a little bit, but God protected my dad. Even though I had all this evil in me, he wouldn't let me touch my dad. He's like, no, you're not. He's a man of God. You will not touch him. So I was backed off him. But so anyway, I go back and I took a bunch of pills that night. And Satan came back in, and I had a Bible, and I'm walking around with this Bible, and Satan's telling me, "You kill your dad. You kill your dad." And I was like, okay. I was like, I'm gonna kill my dad. So I got back in my truck, called my dad, and I said, "You're gonna die tonight." And he was like, what? Because he loves me. I mean, my dad loves me so much. And I uh, I went over there, and my dad was moving his. He has one of those side by sides, like the Rangers,
Yeah.
and he's coming through, and I almost hit the Ranger with my truck. I was gonna just hit it and plow him. You know what I mean? But God said, "Don't. You can't do that." And stop me right there. And I went to get out of my truck, and my mom came flying up in my dad's truck and yelled my name 3 times. She said, Joshua, Joshua, Joshua. And I snapped out. And God, instantly I started crying, and I took off with my truck. And I get down this path, and I'm sitting off the side of the road, and I'm crying. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And God said to me, go home, go back to your trailer. And so I went back to my trailer, and I'm literally in the Bible. And my dad, I didn't know this at the time, but my dad is, he is scared to death, because he is like, what is going on with my son? I love my son, and I don't want to lose him. And he was losing me. And so anyway, I took a bunch more pills. I mean, I took a bunch more pills. And I had the Bible that Pastor Dwayne had given me. He had given me this Bible, and I knew it was blessed. And I was walking, and there's this steep hill. Okay, so like my camper's up on the point, and it goes down this path, and down the path goes into where there's a lake. Okay, so I walk down, and literally, like my chest, with this Bible in my hand, my chest is puffing out, and I'm walking down this hill, and I literally don't feel the ground. I can't feel the ground. And I walked down the hill, and I said, God, what am I doing? Who am I? What am I here for? And no response. And I was like, okay. And then I see like there's a dock that goes out. There's this dock. And I get out on that dock, and the Bible literally flings open. It like flips open, and like the moon was so bright that night, it like cast on my Bible, and I could see the words on my Bible. And I'm just like, what is going on? And I flipped it back shut, and every time I'd flip it shut, it would snap shut. And I'm like, what is going on here? It was like a war between good and evil. Like Satan and God were just fighting over me. Like who's gonna get me? And I remember Satan said, you're demon possessed. He said that to me, was you're demon possessed, and God said, you're not demon possessed. He goes, take off your shoes and walk in the water. And I took off my shoes and I walked in the water. And he says, and I just remember sitting in that water, and I was like, I'm going to drown myself. And I started walking to where I was going to drown myself. And he stopped me. God stopped me and said, no, you will not drown yourself. He turned me around. And when he turned me around, I went back up. I started, he goes, you're going to walk back up. And I started walking back up. And when I talk like this path is steep, like it is like, I mean, it's steep. It's like a huge path to go back up to my camper, because it goes down to the lake. And I'm walking up this incline, and it's like it's nothing. I mean, I can't feel the ground. I mean, it was like God came in and was marching me up this hill, like, no, you're going to live. I'm going to keep you. You're mine. And I remember I went back up that hill, got back in, And I didn't know this, but I started reading the Bible, and I was reading the Bible and reading the Bible, and I was going through all, and it was just flushing my mind. Just it was just like it was so powerful. Like I when they talk about like the power of the Holy Spirit, like it, it's so overwhelming. Like when it hits you, when it actually hits you, it's it's incredible. I've never felt nothing like it in my entire life, and I wanted more of it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But I was still on the drugs, and the drugs were still coursing through my system. So anyway, I'm sitting there reading this Bible, and I'm reading it, and I didn't know my dad had come by, and because he was checking on me, he was worried. He's like, I want to make sure my son's not dead. My son's okay. And I didn't know they drove by. I guess they went right past. They said that you were just in your Bible. All the lights were on inside your place, and you were just reading this Bible. And I, so anyway, next thing you know, I'm walking in and out of my camper, and all of a sudden, Lake County police surround my whole camper. They surround the whole thing, and they're like, Josh, come out. And I'm like, okay. And I come out, and they're like, Josh, just get in the car. Just get in the car. And I had my Bible in my hand, and I just got in the car. And I was like, they're like, we'll shut off everything. You're okay. They were awesome to me. Lake County was just, the police were just, I mean, it's like they love me. You know what I mean? Like they were for me too. Like they're scared for me. And I remember I had taken so many pills. I had taken so many pills. They were driving. I'm sitting there, and I'm literally as they're driving. I remember praying for them, and I'm praying, and they're getting scared. They're getting nervous because they're like, "Is this kid gonna, is he gonna die right here in front of us?" Because I'm going deep into prayer and pouring it out, and they're going like 70 miles an hour to get me to this hospital in Ludington. So I get to Ludington. And next thing you know, they're hooking me up to all this stuff, and I go out. I go out, and I wake up 3 days later in Trinity Hospital in Muskegon, and they told me that I was in ICU for 3 days, and I was like, holy cow! And so that was the end of the bad part of it. Okay, that's where basically I said no to. Well, so I said no to that at that point. So I go to Trinity Hospital, and they're the nicest people. I mean, they just, man, they were caring, and what can we do for you? And they're feeding me 3 4 meals a day, you know what I mean, just and snacks, and trying to get my weight up. Well, I'm gaining weight like crazy because all those drugs are out of my system, and they got me on new stuff. And anyway, so I remember coming out of my room because I didn't want to come out right away. I was really scared. And um I had a Bible, and it was a different Bible. And I started reading the Bible again, and it was early in the morning. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep very good, and this has been going on for a while. I haven't been able to sleep very well. And I I came out of my room, and it was early in the morning, and I was like, do you guys mind if I listen to Christian music on the screen? And I just need something to calm me a little bit, And they're like, that's fine, that's fine. So I was putting on contemporary Christian music, and I don't know if you know the song, but Andrew Rip Roses. You ever heard that song?
Oh,
So it comes on, and I'm just crying because it's like it's a powerful song. Andrew Rip, it's just a powerful song, and I'm sitting there, and I'm just, I'm thinking of my dad, and I'm thinking of my mom, and I'm thinking of my wife, and I'm thinking of my kids, and it was the lowest point of my life, but yet God was right there. He was right there next to me, and I was in there for another 2 weeks. And I got out, and I went to go clean out some stuff, and more pills fell out, and I wasn't strong enough, and I started eating them again, and that hurts the most when I think about that because my dad and my mom loved me so much. I went back to it, and I went. My brother's like, "You can stay here," and I started doing the pills there. And he's like, he came to my camper, and he didn't even know I was taking them. He beat on the door of my camper, and he says, "You cannot do those here." He says, you will leave. He goes, you will get out of here. So I grabbed my camper and I headed out to Grand Haven. You know where the pier is out in Grand Haven?
No.
So the state park in Grand Haven, there's a pier, and I had been there a couple days prior, and I just really was drawn there, and I went there, and I was doing pills, and I remember walking down the pier, and there's this great big dredger where they take the sand and they move it out of the channel. That way the big ships can go in and out.
Mhm.
And I'm sitting there and I'm watching this, and I'm just sitting there thinking, what are you doing? I'm watching this big, powerful machine move all the sand, and I'm sitting there thinking, God can move mountains for you. You're choosing the other. And I just started crying. And I'm sitting there, and there's fishermen all up and down the pier, and I'm sitting there watching, and I'm like, God is in the moments. God is in the calmness. God is in the good. He is the fisherman. He's the good man. You know what I mean? And it's just hitting me. I mean, just flooding in, and I'm just like, man. So anyway, I go to the next day. I had a bunch of dirty clothes because when you're on drugs, you don't care about clean clothes and all that stuff. So I'm gonna go clean some of my clothes. So I went and cleaned some of my clothes, and I'm sitting there and I get all done, and a guy in a wheelchair comes in, and his name's Corey, and he's struggling the same amount I am at the time. He was struggling with alcohol, and he goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm gonna head back to my camper, and just hang out." It was Saturday, and because I had called my ex, well, now my ex-wife, and I was like, "You guys can come out here," and she's like, "I'm not coming out there with you with drugs," and I'm not, no, I'm not doing that, and I don't blame her a bit, I wouldn't either, and Corey came over and we were hanging out and talking, and we got to reading in the Bible, and it was really helping. You know what I mean? I even though I was struggling, it was helping. And I remember I looked at it and I grabbed those pills and I threw them. So I'm walking to the dumpster. As I'm walking to the dumpster, I'm like, I'm gonna throw these away. But for some reason, I reach in my pocket and I'm pulling handfuls out of the bag and pushing them in my pocket. That way, it looks like I'm just throwing the bag away. Well, I got a pocket full of them still. So I throw them in the dumpster. It rains that night and gets them all. They're all destroyed. Okay, but then this keeps going. So anyway, I threw them in the dumpster. We walk down the pier, and as I'm walking down the pier, Corey's got the Bible in his hand, and we're gonna read at the end of the pier, and I slowly start picking those out of my pocket and throwing them into Lake Michigan. And I literally get down to my last one and I throw it right into Lake Michigan. And we start reading the Bible. And it was powerful. We were reading the book of Joshua, and it was just powerful. And I'll never forget that day. It was the beginning of a turning point. But so anyway, the next day I don't have any more drugs in my system. No, there's no more drugs in my system. And I remember that I threw those in that trash can, and it rained. And the trash can's full of nasty water. And I still went into that dumpster with everybody around and pulled them back out. Even though they're all mush
Ugh.
and nasty, I
Yeah.
ate some of them. Yeah, that's how bad, that's how deep into this I was. It was like, it was just unrelenting. So, and I kept it and I tried to dry it out, and stuff. And I remember I had to leave the next morning. I had to leave the next morning, and I had nowhere to go. I had nowhere to go. My brother had said, "No, you're not coming there." My ex-wife had the house, and I had nowhere to go. I had no money. And I remember I started heading back, and for some reason, just said, "Call Brandy, call your wife, just see what she says." And she's like, come home." And I was crying, and I went there, and she gave me a big hug, even though I had shut her hand in the door and hurt her. She still loved me. She worried about me. And I I took more pills. I took more of that mush that night. And I helped clean the garage, and she's like, you're still on that stuff. And I said, yeah, I am. And I didn't lie to her. I didn't lie to her. I told her the truth. She still showed me love. She still showed me love. Let me stay for a day, even though I didn't deserve it. And that night I threw it all away. And I had to leave by the morning because the kids were coming home. She didn't want me around the kids. And I left, and I had nowhere to go. So I started heading, and I headed towards Holland. And went out to Holland and stopped at this Wendy's and called her back, and she said, "Well, you can't come back right now because of everything." And I said, "That's okay." And so I found a credit card in my truck, and I was like, "Okay, I got a credit card. I can at least stay at a hotel." So went to this hotel, and there was a pastor, TJ, and he's actually my spiritual dad, and he's always been right there for me and prays for me. And that night, I was in that hotel, and I called him up and I said, "Can you come over? I really need to talk to you and just read a little bit." And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, I'd love to." So he came over and we read a little bit. And he, I said, "There's something in me." I said, "I don't know what it is." I said, "It's in me though, and I can't go on with it in me." And he said, "Son, say these words." And I don't even remember the words because Satan was trying to figure out what he was saying before he would say it. That way I could have it before. It didn't work that way. He wouldn't let Satan have it. He's like, "No, you will say these words." And I said these words, and he went into my stomach and he pulled this thing out of my stomach. And I felt like it was immense pain, immense pain. I mean, it was, but I felt good at the same time. It was weird. It was like I've never had nothing like that in my entire life. And he goes, and then he kind of, we talked a little bit more, and he gave me some passages to read, and he left. And that night I called my parents, and I'm like, I feel like I'm dying because whatever he pulled out of me God was trying to fix it, but it was 20 years of bad, just horrible stuff that he pulled out of me. And I remember, calling my mom and dad, and I said, just pray for me tonight because I might die tonight. I said, I don't feel right. I don't feel good. I said, but pray for me. So they prayed for me. My mom was down on her face praying for me that night. I woke up the next day and I felt really, really good. I felt a lot better. And I went downstairs and I had breakfast, a little continental breakfast or whatever. And there was another girl there, and she was struggling with meth, and she needed a ride. So I gave her a ride and, brought her over there. And then she kind of got a little weird on me a little bit. And I was like, no, I dropped her back off at the hotel after getting her phone or whatever. And I called my dad after that. And I said, "Dad," I said, "I can't do this on my own." I said, "I'm struggling real bad." I said, I need to go back to Trinity Hospital." I said, I wasn't ready. Now I'm ready. And he came, and I mean, even after all the stuff I did, he came. We went to my old work, dropped my truck there. My old boss was all about it. He goes, "Just leave your truck there." He goes, "Go to Trinity." I went to Trinity Hospital again. And Trinity Hospital, they say it helped. This next time I started getting coping skills, I was listening. I was doing the things that needed to be done, And I remember I was sitting in there, and I was just like, I just felt the love of God. I felt the love of God. And I was like, all these people, yeah, they might be working, but they cared for each one of us, like there. So I was sitting in there, and it was my second stint, and it was really tough. It was really tough on me. And it was early in the morning, and I was reading and I was listening to music, and there was this young girl, her name was Rachel, And she came in and sat down next to me and just talked to me for a minute, and just asked me how I was doing. And I told her some things, and, it was nice. You know what I mean? It was just nice to have somebody there just to talk to for a minute. And I'll never forget that. And I left Trinity Hospital, and I haven't looked back. I haven't done any drugs. I haven't done anything like that. It's been 6 months, almost 7 months, and I feel better than ever. I've been going to church. I met you at the men's group,
Yeah.
because I was so I. But this it goes even further. So I all the stuff I had did while I was on the drugs, I got in trouble with the law.
Yeah.
So I got in trouble with the law, and I was going when I got out. Even though I was doing good, God's like, you still got to pay for what you did. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And that's
Restitution.
exactly, there's
Yeah.
restitution for what you've done. So
Well, you're doing that here now just by sharing your testimony and giving
yeah,
other people hope. So
yeah,
this is just one way you can do that too.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to
Oh no, no,
interject.
you're fine. So I went to all my court stuff, and my pastor said, "You're not going to jail." You know what I mean? And I'm like, "I'm going to jail." You know what I mean? I started laughing. I'm like, "I'm going to jail. I know I'm going to jail." So, and then I go to court, and my lawyer looks at me and says, "You're not going to jail." And I looked at him and I said, "I'm going to jail." You know what I mean? So I get into the courtroom, and the judge looks at me and he goes, "You did all this stuff?" And I said, "Yes, I did, sir, or Your Honor." And you're going to jail. And I went to jail, and he said 10 days. He goes, "You're going for 10 days," which, I mean, 10 days doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a lot when you're in there. So, because they don't make it nice. So it's not like you're walking in there and everything's great. It's like, no, there's a bunch of dudes, and a lot of them don't have any manners, and it's tough. It's tough. So I did that. I did that little stint, got out. I did 8 days with good behavior. So I got out, and I remember I was really, I was kind of in a mixed emotion. And I got out, and he's like, guy was right there with me. He's like, just walk. I hadn't called anybody. I turned on my phone. I walked down the hill, walked down to Michigan Street, went to New Beginnings, and I got breakfast. And I sat there and got breakfast, and I was like, now what? And I had a job with Quality Sewer, and I thought I'd lost that job, and I called Zach from Quality Sewer, and I said, I'm out. I got out of jail. He's like, "Well, we didn't even know where you were. We didn't," because I didn't know I was going to jail. I didn't tell anybody. It's not like, so I just went, and so then I got out, called him, and he's like, "Oh, well, you still got your job,
Well,
and
that's a
I'm like,
blessing.
yeah, I was
Wow.
like, wow, I got my job. That was great. So I, I went to New Beginnings. I got a lift out of there back to my place, changed my clothes. He came and picked me up, and we went to work. And um, yeah, 2 days. But the thing is, 2 days, 3 days later, I had another court for another probation violation, and I'm like, I'm going to jail. And my pastor's like, "You're not going to jail," and I'm like, "I'm going to jail.
Yeah.
I'm going to jail." So I get there again, and the lawyer looks at me and says, "No, you're not going to jail." He goes, "You got all this stuff. You've already been to jail." I go, "I'm going to jail." I go, "I guarantee I'm going to jail." I knew it. I just knew it in the pit of my heart. I knew it right in my heart. I knew it in the pit of my stomach. I knew I was going to jail. So he looks at me and he goes, "You're going to jail."
This is this is funny.
And I'm like, "Oh man, I'm going to jail again." So he looks at me, and the probation officer, who has given me tons of chances, he's like, "We want 30 days." And I was like, 30 days, man. I had just paid rent for my apartment, and I hadn't worked in 8 months. And I'm like, man, how am I going to do this? I don't have any money, And I'm sitting there like, oh, so I just paid rent. I can't work. I got to go to jail. So anyway, I went, and God was right there with me again. And every day that I was in jail, I read the Bible. and they'd all like watch me because I'd wake up, I'd set my Bible down at the table, I'd sit down, I'd pray, and I'd read my Bible, and then I'd take a shower. You
It's
know
a
what I mean?
blessing in disguise, kind of,
Yeah,
too. You
yeah,
get to just look at God the whole time while you're in there.
yeah. And, it was such a blessing too because they put money on my commissary, which means that
Oh,
I could
yeah.
have snacks and stuff because the food is just, oh, it's terrible. I mean, you want, I mean, you wouldn't feed your dog the stuff I was eating in there. You would feel bad for your dog. You'd be like, no, I don't know if I want to give that to my dog.
Yeah. Wow.
Your dog, you know, if your dog would eat it, you'd probably look at it and be like, yeah, I'm good on that.
So is this a county jail?
Kent County.
Yeah,
Yep.
county jails
Correctional.
are way worse than like
Yep.
prisons.
Yep.
And they're usually smaller and you don't like get to go outside or anything.
So
So
it was well, I didn't get to go outside at all. So,
yeah.
and it was October. It was just a little bit ago. So it was the nicest month because you guys it was beautiful. I mean, I looked outside every day and I was like, man, it's so nice outside. I missed Halloween with my daughter, but I had to pay for what I did, in life. It, it's not perfect. Everything's not going to be perfect when you're doing the wrong things. You got to look at it sometimes and say, well, I needed this, because if I wouldn't have this, this wouldn't be so good. You know what I mean? It's just like good and evil. If there was no evil, there wouldn't need to be a God. You know what I mean? So there has to be both sides. So I'm just, yeah. So anyway, I fast forward, I got out. But I got out. I think my mom and dad, I talked to my mom and dad and they came and picked me up and went to church that day. It was time for church, so I actually went to church, and then I think it was the next week because I was like, I wanted to get baptized. I just wanted to get baptized. I wanted to get this bad tarnishment off me. You know what I mean? I wanted it gone, and they said we're doing baptisms. And I'm like, you're doing, I was just talking about that. I
Yeah.
mean, I literally, and it doesn't happen for like months.
Yeah, that's great
I,
timing.
I'm,
God's
uh,
timing
I was
perfect.
like, oh my, and I needed it. I needed
Yeah.
it so bad. So I'm looking forward to this baptism all week. And I'll never forget it. It's like he was there with me every day. He's like, I love you. I'm reading and I uh I went to church that morning to get baptized, and I felt I felt good. And I'm walking in, and Pastor Dwayne and his whole team is right there. And I'm walking. It was almost like I'm walking through, and he looks at me, and I look at him. We both smile, and I shook his hand and told him I'm getting baptized, and he's all happy for me. And I my dad talks to him a little bit, and then I go and get my shirt, and I walk into the back, and you know, being not necessarily like I'm a fresh Christian, I'm a new Christian, and you feel a little uneasy. You know what I mean? It's a little intimidating when you walk in there because it's like you know all the bad stuff you've done, and
Mhm.
it's almost like, dude, my buddy who on the bar, he goes, well, I want to walk in there with you, I want to see you burst into flames.
That's funny.
And I was kind of laughing as I'm walking on through it because I'm thinking about that, and you don't burst into flames, he loves you. And I walked in, and I had my shirt on, the shirt that I'm getting to get baptized in, and um, I go and I sit down front. I like to sit down front. I don't need to be in the back. I don't need to be far away. I'm right there. I'm not hiding anything. I'm right here. You know what I mean? This is who I am. This is what I want to do. So I went right up front, and I'm sitting there, and this lady walks up to me, and she says, well, what's your story? And I was like, you really want to hear this? And I was like, we're in church. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? And she's like, yeah, I want to hear it. And I start telling her, and she's just like, whoa. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of bad. And she goes, well, would you mind going first? and doing your testimony? Like, would you mind being the first one? And then as you come up, the pastor meets with you, and then you tell I said, yeah. I said, I'm not hiding from it. I'm right here. Everybody needs to hear it, because I'm a testimony, and to what's good and what's bad, and what you should, what good, what can happen to you. You know what I mean? So I I was a little nervous, because I was a little nervous, but yeah, I had peace. I had so much peace, and I remember she goes, "All right, well, you're gonna be the first one," and then Pastor Dwayne's son walks in, and he starts talking to me, and he's been I went to some night services, and I had seen him preach, and I liked him. He's a nice guy, he's a good guy, and he started talking to me and asked me, and I started telling him the story. He goes, "Well, give us the 2-minute version because we don't want to take up the whole thing." And he goes, "But afterwards, you can give your testimony." And I did that too. So I remember I walked down, and I'm getting ready to get baptized, and boss was there. He was there. He was there for me. He was there to watch me get baptized. And I remember just thinking, God, thank you, because I deserve that. I put him through hell, and took advantage of him, and I just didn't deserve it, And my whole family was there. My whole family, my brothers, my sisters, and they were so scared of me. They had protection orders on me. That's how scared of me because of what happened with my dad. I didn't know that, but when I was in jail, they had protection orders. I mean, they had every right to. They were scared, because I was off the hinges. And I remember I walked down, and I see them all, and they're all sitting next to each other talking. And I'm down there, and I'm just like, Lord, what am I gonna say? You know what I mean? He goes, I'm gonna say it. He goes, you're gonna shut your mouth. You're gonna let me talk. And I was like, whoa. You know what I mean? Who am I to? Okay, well, here we go. So they have a countdown up on the screen. You've been to the church, haven't you?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so if you go to the church, they have a countdown to where
Okay.
it starts. Okay, so it gets down to that countdown, and it gets down to 5 seconds, and I could feel my heart rate slow, and I could feel everything just peace just set over me. And she goes, okay, he goes, okay, it's time. And I started walking down, and I walked down by the pool, and they said, all right, get in the pool. And I got into the pool, and I walked to the front, and they're like, I'm like, sorry, to walk to the front, because I don't know what I'm doing, you know what I mean? So I walk up to the front, and he goes, I'm just gonna hold the mic, and you're gonna talk. I said, okay. And it just came out of me the minute they said what would happen and what my testimony was just came out. I don't even, and then I honestly looked at my parents afterwards, and I said, I don't even know what I said because I didn't say it. He said it. He said it for me, not me saying anything. And I remember I put my hand like this and like this, and they sunk me in the water. And when I came back up, my arms shot into the air. Like I didn't do that. My arms just shot into the air. And at that moment, it was like he had just washed everything off me and said, you're a new person. And my joy came back. I had lost my joy for so long, and my joy just came flooding back. And man, I can't thank them enough for doing that for me. I mean, everybody heard what I had to say, and then I get done, and they got like all the young kids, like the teenagers and stuff. They all want to be there for when you get out. They're their cheer squad.
Oh, cool.
So as you're going down through, you're all high fiving you and stuff, and they're all happy for you. And that's really cool because those kids, that's awesome. It's like a rebirth, and here's your cheer squad, and I was so thankful for that. And then I got done, went back, gave my testimony, but then I had signed up for this new restore class. That way, because faith without action is nothing. You know what I mean? If you say it, yeah, you can say it and you can, but if you don't have action, you got to have action behind it. You got to look at it and say, okay, well, what am I going to do now? Well, I looked at it and said, well, I'm going to go to the restore class, and I'm going to go to this. And then I went to restore class, and I met Rick, and Rick's like,
Oh yeah.
you need to come to you need to come to the men's group,
Hmm.
and I'm like, I'll come to the men's group. I was like, yeah. So I go to restore, I go to the men's group, and then I go Wednesday, I go to a Bible study. And then my other boss is like, well, I want to have a Bible study with you too. And I'm like, well, I want to have a Bible study with you, so let's do this thing. I don't want to hold back anymore. I want to do right. And oh yeah, and the other thing was when I shot out of that water, I told you this, but he said lead by example. Because
Hmm.
I had my girls on my mind, and they mean so much to me. And I love them so much. And I hurt them so much. And now I'm just like, I want to do better by them. So I signed up at the Y. I'm doing all kinds of stuff with them. We went swimming yesterday. You know, um, it's just wonderful. God can restore you. He didn't restore my marriage, because I hurt her so bad. But she still shows me love. She still cares about me. She doesn't have to. She don't have to. She's doing well. I pray for her every day, and she's a good mom to my kids. She's been there for my kids even though I wasn't there, and that's tough. Imagine sitting there, your husband's out there killing himself, and you're at home with the kids, and you're worried about both. And she got a job, and she did all this stuff, and I'm proud of her. I'm really proud of her. Even though she's moving on now, that's okay. I get it. You can't sit there and wait for somebody forever. You can't look at it and say, I want to get on the sinking ship. You know what I mean? Because it's sinking. You know what I mean? So I, uh, I don't hold nothing against her. I actually, I love her. I still love her. I didn't want the divorce, but it was too far gone by the time I gotten back, and that hurt a lot because I never wanted to be divorced, but
I don't think anybody does,
no,
you know.
yeah, it's just, I mean, yeah. Just one of those things, you gotta
Hmm.
just take it and keep rolling, and you gotta let God do what he's gonna do, because I did what I was gonna do, and now I'm gonna let him do what he's gonna do. So, and every day my mind gets a little bit better. After being in the ICU, I got out of the ICU, and it was really foggy, and I hadn't worked in 8 months, and I went through the whole summer, and I'm doing the best I can. Doesn't mean it's easy, it's been a struggle. So but I like I got my truck, I got my new place in Granville. I got my mom who's awesome, who like I mean, my mom, she's such a blessing in my life. My dad is such a blessing in my life. He tells me how it is, and my mom tells me what I, you're okay, So I got a little bit of both, and um, then I got my grandma, who I'd love to go help a little bit, and I got to see more of her. She's 86, and she was praying for me every day, and you know, I need to help her a little bit. It helps me too,
Yeah.
because when you're come out when you come off of drugs and all this stuff, um, your lifestyle's messed up, so you try to find things that are good that you look at, you say, well, what can I do now? Well, go to the Y, or go to work, or go to a men's group, and meet some people. You just try to just fill those things, and it's really getting a lot better. I just don't want to have a lot of time on my hands, because time on my hands, I didn't do good with time on my hands. So
Yeah.
I really, it was bad. So, but now it's like I see it. It's good. I have different things that I have planned out. Um, and I'd love to go shoot some I'm gonna go shoot some basketball at the Y coming up, just for something to do,
Hmm.
and then try to get my physical body back together,
Yeah.
because I gained, yeah. I lost. I went down to 160 pounds, and then I gained all the way back up to almost 230. So my back's kind of been hurting, you know. So
You're on
like,
the opposite side
yeah,
now.
it's like holy cow, my body's gotta hold up all this weight, you know, and yeah. So if you have any questions or anything,
Yeah, not too many questions. I guess I asked you before, but we didn't get there. I guess you haven't heard about the return
hey,
yet. Yeah, Rick, most of the guys at that table Tuesday morning,
yeah,
I think all the guys have been to the return.
okay,
But yeah, that could help supplement your faith a little bit.
okay,
Basically, you go up to, I think it's Big Rapids, it's up north,
okay,
about an hour and a half from here. But
yeah,
you go up there like a Wednesday night and you're there till Sunday.
okay.
It's like a Christian church camp. And
Oh,
so
when does that happen?
they're actually doing one right now.
Oh, really?
Um, but I'll have to look again on their website. I can send you the link afterward.
Okay, yeah.
And hopefully, I hope you can go on that too.
I could go.
But yeah, you're working man now and
Yeah,
stuff, so you can pray about it and
yeah,
see where God leads you. But I have a friend there. I mean, I'm gonna send him your testimony after we're done here. I think he's been going through a lot of stuff too. And me and my friend Isaac, you haven't met him,
okay,
but we've been helping him, and he's been helping us too, to be honest. But I think I'm getting encouragement from your testimony, and I'm sure Isaac and he has other friends too that would love to hear your testimony. So I'm
yeah,
definitely going to be
okay,
sharing this with them.
yeah. Share it with everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I'm kind of hoping your children
yeah,
and your family. I don't know if they've been there for the testimony, but
yeah,
hearing it on here too might inspire them and feel like all their work that they put into it is being blessed
yeah,
too,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I can send them the link. Yeah, because
Yeah.
honestly, I just want to do better. You know, I did it my way for too long, and it got me. I almost died. You know, I mean, Satan wanted me dead. You know, I mean, that's what he is. He's a deceiver, and he lies to you. You know, and you sit there and you say to yourself, "Oh, you know, I'm gonna be okay today. You know, I can take these pills, or I can look at this pornography, or I can, you know, cheat on my wife, or you know, whatever it may be. You know,
Yeah.
because everybody has their own thing. You know, so but I'm telling you, he deceives you, and he opens up doors that you don't want to go into, and
Hmm.
eventually, like those doors will lead you down a path of destruction, and
Yeah.
it'll be bad. And I've seen it. I've seen it. I lived it. You
Yeah.
know.
He's come to steal, kill, and
That's
destroy.
all he wants to do.
Yeah.
That's all he wants to do. And God, you know, I mean, God is so good. I mean, I just, I'm so happy, you know what I mean, that I actually seen it before it took me, you know what I mean? Because it was gonna take me. So it wanted to, but wouldn't let it. So, and the people at Trinity Hospital, man, I mean, if you ever really need help, Trinity Hospital in Muskegon, they really they got a good program there, and they'll take good care of you. So that's another place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
Well, the scripture says, "He who began a good work in you will complete it until the day of Christ Jesus." I think it's Philippians 1:6, but I'm a little rusty. But
okay.
I like struggle with my faith, and sometimes you got to remember that Jesus is in control.
Mhm.
We're gonna make mistakes, and yeah, we went through this Bible study called Resilient by John Eldridge, and
Okay.
throughout all our life, there's going to be places in our heart that God's going to have to work on. And you get saved, yeah, and you get baptized, and there's some really awesome moments with God,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we will still enter troubles. Like you said,
Yeah.
you grew up in a Christian household and your parents are missionaries and
Mhm.
stuff.
Yeah.
And after you're saved, you're going to be battling
Yeah.
demons or the
Yeah.
world still.
Yeah.
So,
So they're actually like evangelists. Evangelists is what it's called, I believe, where they go out and they do stuff like that. So it's like evangelism. I think they did some missionary work too. So they've done quite a bit. I'm back at Zion Reformed Church. My parents were pretty involved.
okay. Where'd
So
they go? Or
so I don't. I was young, so I don't know what they did now.
okay.
So yeah, I was really young, but I remember going to cadets and doing all that kind of stuff. And yeah, my dad was doing all kinds of stuff though. He was, and then you know the family. thing happened, and like, we started getting older, so my dad had to work and then be there for us, so he couldn't do it as much. And then we started going to different churches and ended up at, well, a church out on 100th Street, Corinth Reform. You know where that is?
No, I don't
Okay,
actually.
so it's right on 100th Street. So we went to
Okay.
that one too, and that's a good church. But yeah, there's a lot of good churches. You just got to find out where you fit.
Yeah,
You know?
we've been looking. We moved back here to Michigan last, I guess, in 2023 in June.
Okay.
I'm originally from Kansas, and my wife's from Michigan here, so I
Oh,
don't really know the area. But
okay.
yeah, I
Well,
guess with that we can close in prayer if you want, or
yeah.
unless you want to talk about anything else. Or
Whatever you want to talk about.
okay, um,
If you can think of anything.
um, I don't know if I can think of anything else. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. You want to close this out with
Yeah,
prayer?
sure.
All right.
Sure. Lord Jesus, we pray for those in need today, Lord. The ones struggling out on the streets, the ones that have given up, Lord, that we just want you to guide them, Lord, and be with our kids in this nation, Lord. They are our future, Lord. Uh, be with be with our families, be with our leaders, oh Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Yeah. All right. You all, thanks for coming to the IGNIS podcast, and we're very happy to have you,
Yeah.
Josh, hear your testimony. It's very heartfelt and genuine. Like not too often we get to see that. So
Uh,
thanks.
yeah, no problem.